This call is now being recorded.
Hello, madam.
Yes,
I
sir.
can say the only one answer for all the questions, madam,
Yes, sir.
which can be used by the girls, cannot be used by the boys, but can be used by the girls, which are used by the boys, gents, madam. That is the only one answer. Wearing of the dresses, wearing of the shoes, footwear, using of the vehicles, everything can be done by the, can be used by the ladies. But what
True,
are the used by the men cannot be done by the gents, madam.
true. That's a good way of summing this up, sir.
That here ladies are having the more opportunities than the gents, madam, male.
Yes, yes, we see that there is a, I see there is a, I see there is a lot of variety for varieties for girls, and
Yeah, 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 right.
men have
I
limited
think a lot of
pretty
opportunities
much.
wearing of the dresses, using of the footwears, vehicles, everything can be used by the ladies, madam, but not the gents, madam.
It's a,
The one answer for all the questions, madam.
let me ask. You, now we saw about seven different questions. Now in all this, how did we come to a conclusion of this is for boys, this is for girls? How did that become like something that is very normal? All of us accept it. We are 123 people right now. And pretty much all of us agree with some of the things that we have put in here, isn't it? But how did we get this into our mindset? How did we decide?
because of the physical and emotional, psychological needs of both men and women.
Because of socialization,
Yeah,
we've grown up
exactly.
like that. I
It's
never knew I had to behave in a certain manner as a child. I was told to do like that, or I tell my kids to do like that, or not maybe, but you know, socialization.
yeah,
Gender is socially constructed. Gender is not what you are born with.
Biological, not biological.
yeah.
And these stereotypes are being drilled into our heads consistently as a part of the socialization. It's like these molds are created. You fit into this if you are a boy, you fit into that if you are a girl. So
Okay, great. And how
Particular differences have
how are these thoughts taught to children or to anybody in the society? What are the mediums that have been used?
Could you please repeat, ma'am?
How are these taught to children or to people around? What are the mediums that are used?
Storytelling. The princess was very beautiful.
You've seen storytelling, yes.
Household chores, attitudes of the parents, the kind of summer schools that we put them in dance and embroidery and whatnot, and boys to the soccer club or something. And several things. Table manners. Don't don't chew with your mouth open, and so many things. All started around that.
So we've been talking to them orally, we've been demonstrating to them, and they're watching us, they're watching the different mediums like media, like television and things like that. So, what is media? This is an excellent conversation. Thank you so much. Let me take you to a little, maybe you can mute your mics now. So, we can discuss a little bit on what is media.
Dr. Vikramata ma'am, can you please mute your mic? And Rafia ma'am?
Yes, thank you so much. So, these days, one thing that all of us seem to be talking about or complaining, especially if you're a parent, that there is too much of screen time. Like information is everywhere. And we see ourselves, we see our children constantly on different platforms of media sources to get in information. So what are you getting your information from? Some of you, like we just said, orally, from family members, when we speak to one another, and we see it being demonstrated in our family, around us, and then we're also seeing it on social media. There's so many media right there sitting at home. We're getting information from many different sources. And we are surrounded, literally, we are surrounded. If you can see all that information that is around us, it'll be quite overwhelming, because there is like tons and tons of knowledge about any subject on earth. You know, and also, like we said, we hear oral stories from our maid to the colleague, like, our domestic helpers would come and say, Amma, idi aitundi, or this is happening, or that is happening around there. To discussions with our colleagues in the office, we say, hey, there is a sales happening there, or there is this happening there. Or to a speech on TV, we would say somebody said this on TV about this particular topic, or an article on the internet, or a video, or a text forward on WhatsApp. Now, media is not a new thing. Media has always been an integral part of our lives. Be it print, that's like newspaper or magazines, or broadcast media, that is like TV or radio, or the billboards. Wherever we go, there like huge billboards always trying to convey us something or the other. Then we have the internet. Imagine a day without internet. It's unbelievable. The first time I was introduced to internet was in 1997. I had my first email account then. But when I think of the way I used to log in that day, and at those time and log in now, it's so different. Like internet, and there's so much development in the world of internet. We call it new media, we call it social media. So no information can be just like dumped onto us. We want to verify it. We want to check with people. We want to hear from all kinds of sources. My definition of media is a tool to share information, a message that is targeted to different audiences who are classified under like social economic status, or socio-cultural influences, or socio-religious beliefs. And once you understand the audience, especially for those in media, we try to present a message that is suitable for this particular audiences that we had just mentioned, and make sure we present it in a timely manner. Timing is very important in media. Right now, with the present lockdown situation, I can't say, come special discounts in movie. You're going to watch this. No, there is a different style of marketing we are doing at this particular season. Stay at home, stay safe, and we can get things delivered to you. You see, the messages have changed and presented in a very timely manner. Why? So that we can retain, we can garner the audience attention. The whole purpose of media is to get your attention, answer to your need, and then present a solution. So presenting in a timely manner to garner the audience attention, to bring in a desired response. So we want the audience to react, to respond, to welcome or embrace what we are trying to convey, or buy a product, or receive the information that will influence you or influence the audience to either purchase, to bring a change in how we think, or to what we call is the paradigm shift in our thought, or bring in a change in practices. People who wouldn't have ever taken kasayam or turmeric tea are doing so these days. It has altered our practice, has changed our practice according to our circumstances. So Media is a tool to share information or a message targeted to different audiences classified under social economic status or socio-cultural influences or social religious beliefs, presented in a timely manner to garner the audience attention to bring in a desired response, which is to embrace the message or information that should result in, should result in purchase or paradigm shift in thought or bring in altered practices. Now, this is done, like I said, by first choosing the audience, selecting the right medium, and then raising an awareness, getting the attention, and then by giving the details of the topic we wish to engage, and then interacting with them and getting the message to and through them. So choosing the audience, selecting the right medium, bringing in the attention, bringing in the awareness by getting their attention, giving them the details of the product or the topic or the message, and then interacting with the audience and then conveying the message to them and make it transferable, through them. Now, it is media and audience, it is a relationship in which, this is called a dependency theory. According to Britannica, what is the relationship of media with the audience? It is a dependency theory. It is a relationship in which the fulfillment of one party's need and goals is reliant on the resources of another party. A main focus of the theory is the relationship between media and the audiences. So we see that in our generation or in an industrialized and information-based societies, individuals tend to develop a dependency on the media to satisfy a variety of their needs, which can range from a need for information, either on a political candidate or a policy, in Western countries and even in India now. Media is a big tool to help us decide whom we want to elect. And whether it is just for relaxation or for entertainment. In other words, the more the people are reliant on media, the more the media is generated and more the knowledge and sometimes less the wisdom. Why? Because media is muddled with excessive information, mostly coming from various perspectives based on the very influences of information and personal prejudices and preferences. Thus, one information is presented with different lenses, mostly to satisfy the already plowed and seasoned and in a way, the clouded mind of the audience. We call media as the biggest manipulator because we have learned the art of presenting what people want to hear. So the impact of media is you are what you watch. This is something that I put together, the impact. We respond to media. We believe what we see. Sometimes we want, then we pursue. The media, again, the whole industry responds to you. Is seeing what you're seeing. It's seeing what you want, seeing what you're pursuing. It responds with products. It'll create a product. It'll market what you need. It'll try and make you to believe that you need it. And then again, we respond to it. So this is like a circle that goes on and on and on and on. So most of what we think, most of what we want, most of what we think is life or the way we need to live or way we need to think, way we need to wear clothes or what we need to do, what profession we need to take, everything is influenced by the subconscious information that we've been gathering over the years with different mediums. Now, what is gender? Some of you told me in the beginning, gender is not a biological essence. It is what the society has determined, which is very true. Gender is not the biological essence of a person. Gender is what the society determines is the role, behavior, and functionality of men and women. That is why, if you really see and study about gender studies, there are like 53 gender classifications these days. I was like, 53? All I knew was like a male, a female. But yeah, there's so many gender classifications nowadays because we are segregating or bringing people to clubbing people, understanding the role or the behavior and the functionality of this particular gender group. Now, why stereotyping? Stereotyping and has a very close link to gender. Again, stereotyping is a grouping of people with specific attributes, traits, abilities, and functions. So stereotyping is a grouping of people with specific attributes, traits, abilities, and functions. Now, look at this picture. This is one of the productions I did. It was called Adventures in Odyssey. Now, who is the character here? Look at this person. Isn't he a famous character? Those of my age might know. Mr. Tikku Talsanya. Does anybody know what is he famous for? Comedy,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, most of it. As soon as you see him, you give a smile.
Yeah. He say like his dialogue.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, ma'am.
As soon as you see him,
Famous dialogue is that
correct, correct. Whenever I look at him, I just smile. I'm like, because somehow in my mind, I know him, he's a comedian. So I'm expecting something hilarious or I'm expecting something, that will lift my spirit when I see him. But in the production that I did, I broke his stereotype. It was a risk for me because of, the TRP, because people expecting him to do a comedy role. But when we featured him in that, we broke his stereotype. That was the first time he ever did anything like so serious in this. It was a kids TV series we did. And he had to bring in a lot of wisdom and more teaching moral lessons to children while he was the owner of this nice cafeteria. It was a total breaking of stereotype, which was difficult. It was a risk that we were taking because people may not or would not want to see him in that way. But what I'm trying to say is as soon as we see somebody, we kind of identify them with something they've done in the past, and that has etched an impression on our brain. Now, my favorite characters are all the superheroes. I love to watch them. I still do. And I was trying to identify stereotyping with all these comic characters. And to my surprise, I found out that what we are seeing these days, the actual timeline, Phantom was like the first superhero, and he was first featured in 1936. Isn't that amazing? 1936. And then in 1938, we see Superman. And in 1939, we see Batman, Captain Marvel. Now, when you look at the present movies, we think they're all like new characters. They just designed now. But it's not. These were designed in 1936. Now, when you look at these characters, just look at those images. What do you see? What do these male superheroes convey to us? Now, this was a setting for stereotyping of superheroes. Men, mostly double life as protectors, protecting the world, protecting the people who are weak. And they were saying that they were like just as few people who could bring about a change. And we need those kind of protectors in our society. Now, if you compare to our real life, who are the protectors in our real life? Who are the protectors in our real world? Then we begin to look around us and see who is powerful, who is smart, who is charming. And then we start identifying ourselves with these heroes. Imagine when you see a politician or when you see a cine actor, you just want to take a picture. Everybody wants to just take a picture. Why? Because we have created this persona that they are different than us, they are greater than us, they have more influence than us. So they are somebody that we need to connect ourselves with or be privileged to be associated with. So we begin to see and identify such characteristics in our politicians, in our film stars, or whoever is influential or smart. Now, it took a paradigm shift to introduce a woman in that already set masculine role of a superhero. And it didn't happen, or say it happened eventually in 1940 when a woman in red was introduced. Now, can you imagine this? After seeing this, would we be willing to accept someone like this? Very difficult. It takes a lot of fashioning of the mind, or preparing or plowing of the mind, and media did that. It brought in that paradigm shift by introducing a woman superhero in 1940. And then we see a lot of superheroes after that. And we saw the Comet, the Flash, the Justice League, Green Lantern, the Sandman, Catwoman, Captain America was in 1941. Wonder Woman was introduced in 1941. Batwoman in 1956. Supergirl in 1959. Justice League in 1960. Fantastic Four in 1961. These were all even before I was born. The Hulk and Spider-Man, 1962. Iron Man, X-Men in 1963. The Black Widow, she also is part of the Avengers. She's in 1964. The Swamp Thing in 1971. Wolverine. How many of you seen Wolverine movie? That character was introduced in 1974. Storm in X-Men, she was introduced in 1975. The Teenage Mutant Ninja, 1984. And so many, till 2004, we have seen an introduction of various kinds of superheroes. Now, all these have really, I see, damsel in distress has been supported. Yes, there are so many changes that have begun to come in the way we think. But those were in the world of superheroes. But what is happening in the world of ads? Let's look at it. Let's look at this ad. What is this ad defining as a gender role? Anybody like to answer that? I like Complan, though I'm not criticizing Complan. But when you look at this ad, what does it represent?
Mother and affection, madam. Mother's affection.
Mother's affection.
The nurturing mother.
The nurturing.
Parental role. Parental role.
It's a parental role. So, would you have accepted if it was a guy in that same position instead of a woman? Somebody is not able to see the picture?
Yes, ma'am. For quite some time, I'm not able to see the slideshow somehow. That's all right. We identify it.
Okay. So we're just showing a picture of a woman and a mother and a child having Complan in their hand. So yes, this is showing the responsibility of a woman cares, or a woman makes sure, a mother makes sure that she's giving protein or a nutritious food to the child, and subconsciously setting up conveying an information that a mother is responsible for the nutrition factor in the family. No, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying how it kind of influences our mind. Now, when you look at this, what does this present?
The multitasker.
Multitasker. She can cook anything.
Women role in the world, madam.
Yeah. Now,
All in one.
Would you see a picture of a guy like this? Would you? I mean, would anybody?
Not exactly the all roles, but in the family, she's taking care of again health of the all family members by serving needy food and nutritious food, medical consciousness.
Exactly. Now, when you look at this, we're talking about housing, house stuff, bed sheets, and comfort and stuff. If you saw that ad with Shah Rukh Khan and his wife Gauri, She never really features in any ads, but when they did the furnishing ads, did you see that? They brought in Gauri. They kind of made a statement saying, Shah Rukh might be the hero there, but at home I am the decision maker. I decide what kind of furnishings we need. So there, again, we see that a woman is making those choices. Now, look at this. Why didn't they not have a woman in this ad? Why did they choose to have a man in this ad?
Because it's again the professional field.
Mm-hmm. It's not at home.
I mean, in the professional chef,
Yep.
it's not at home. It's not the domestic realm.
Mm-hmm. So why did we decide that? Why can't we have a professional chef outside of home as a girl? Wouldn't that sell the product?
This is highly paid realm, and the domestic chores are not paid.
Yeah. Now, let's look at this. Some of you must have seen an ad a few years ago. They came up with it's okay for boys to cry. Because generally in our mind we say, no, you should not cry. Why should you cry? Boys don't cry. But then people had to work out, all these social activities came up with this campaign of saying that no, it is okay for a boy to cry. So that's when they started bringing in that whole change that children are children. Whether it's a boy or a girl, they go through same emotions. So again, there was a whole paradigm shift that had to happen. Now, some of you mentioned this in the beginning, tools, cars, SUVs are for boys, which is so true. When you look at all the ads of cars, you will only see them outdoors doing all the tough rides, and most often it is a guy. And a girl is only enjoying the ride. You watch most of the ads are like that. Again, the appeal, because they believe that that is what guys want. So it happens. Yes, power cars are driven by men. That's what Tamafi said here, but it's changing. Again, it's stereotyping. Yes, it's changing abroad. There are many, many women who drive cars like this. And bikes too. I have a couple of friends who really love to drive bikes. Now, can we say women belong in kitchen? Can we say men belong in kitchen? Can we say women can protect? Can we say men can protect? Take a moment to think about it. This is where a paradigm shift needs to come. No, it all begins. It all begins when we are a child. What we see as children frames our worldview, and since majority of the customers or consumers are children, the stereotyping and representation of characters in the ads, in the films and product development are based on the imprints of the minds of a child. This influence is a circle. Remember the circle of dependency I showed you earlier? It is a circle. Now, when we look at this, what are we telling children? What are we imprinting in the minds of children? The roles of dad and mom. Dad goes to work, mom cleans and cooks. Dad goes to work, mom goes to work, but mom still cleans and cooks. Mom takes care of the health of the family. Boys can play with cars. Girls can play with kitchen toys. Colors indicate boy. Boy is blue. Color in pink is indicated for girl. Girls can watch Barbie. Boys should watch cars. The other day, my children were watching program, and I told both of them, my daughter is 11 and my son is 5, so I told both of them to watch something, and my daughter very cleverly played a Barbie thing. I said, Anna, why don't you play something that both of you can watch? And my son was quick to correct me, and he said, Mom, it's okay for me to see that. If it's okay for Akka, it is okay for me. And I was like, all right. So again, Girls can watch Barbie, boys should watch Cars, not Barbie. Or boys are brilliant, nerdy problem solvers, girls are princes. They need rescuing, they're dainty, they need to look pretty and, be proper. Girls are praised for being caring and nice, boys are praised for being smart and solving problems. And most cooks at home are moms, and most chefs in restaurant are men. And it is okay for boys to be unruly, but girls need to be quiet. There are a lot of variations from like extremes of negativism to extremes of positive attitude. There is this in betweens as well, where some of us are willing to accept, okay, you are good at this, you're good at that, okay, you do this, you do that. But if you just look at the whole world that is presented around us, it is the influence of media, influence of what we are talking to our children, or what our parents are talking to our children, is what that is preparing them and shaping them to become who they are. But if you honestly see, all of us fit into these two categories. Whether we are girls or we are boys, we fit into this category. We are all funny, caring. We get embarrassed. We are scared. We can be loud. We could be proud. We could be brave. We could be kind. We could be unique. We could be smart. We could be calm. We could be nurturing. We could be emotional. We could be creative. We could be bossy. We could be strong. We could be stinky, smelly. We could be silly. We could be happy, friendly, sad, athletic, excitable, loving, lonely. These are some of the emotions kids have, with either they're girls or your boys. So if we take a step back and look at this, look at our children and look at them. They are just kids. Now let us look at ourselves. Let us look at men and women. We are just people who go through similar emotions. Yes, the way we express might be different, but we go through similar expectations. So, you are generally what you watch. So,
Hello, Dr. Venkat sir. Can you please mute your microphone, please? Hello, Dr. Venkat sir.
1 minute, madam.
So, like I mentioned earlier, what we see is what we become. What we see repeatedly portrays or becomes our cultural norm, and we won't be able to pinpoint the origin of that belief. This was from one of our previous sessions with the faculty we've done about gender roles in films, and these are some of the answers they came up with. How are men depicted in films? As ruler, as police officer, youth, masculine, Robin Hood, very talented, protective father role. And then we see how women are depicted in media. It says their mother role, glamorous, revolutionary woman, emotional, vulnerable, or independent, successful, pious, bearer of culture. I think there was great input we received from that group. And then we also talked about children, how are children depicted. So they said troublesome, naughty, kind, and helpful, or sometimes those who need protection, or sometimes even those who are change agents. The TV series I did in 2002 for a year, it was 54 episodes, and we showed children as change agents. There's some children who needed protection, but there's some children who were actually change agents. And that TV show actually became a family show because it was so appealing to the whole family. And then if you look at LGBTQ, that's the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning people. Most of them, if you see them stereotypically, we look at them as fashion designers. And so this is what we came up with. Now, let me take you to, so media, what we see repeatedly portrays becomes our cultural norm. And we, after many years, we won't be able to pinpoint where did it start from? How did this belief system come into existence? Because we will probably have many versions of it after, so many years. So when that perception is questioned, when that belief is questioned, it becomes a threat to the very foundation of who we have adapted ourselves to be. No, okay. So as a result, as a result, we feel like we need to put a stop to that kind of questioning. We don't want people to adapt. Or we want people to adapt. It depends. So sometimes, as a result, we want to eliminate the threat. And this takes in a disguise of preservation. Let us preserve our belief. We give it names like we are holding on to our culture, we are holding on to our tradition, or we're preserving our religious beliefs. But most of the time, our decisions have been very biased because it's based on what we have been growing up with, the thought patterns that we have already established in our mind. And this has led to unimaginable acts throughout the history when people were trying to defend the stereotyping that has happened or that has been put into motion or continuously being presented through media, through various different circumstances of history. Now, this affects the performance and achievements of the gender. And thus, yes, some traits become more dominant, some become more oppressive. So media plays a huge part in this entire process. We just saw that previous slide. Kids are all the same, but how did they change as they grew up? That's because of the influence of people around them, because of influence of media, because of the conditioning of the mind, that some traits become dominant. And that becomes the very existence of the classification of a stereotype. Now, so media plays a huge part in this entire process, and media is honestly a verified tool for manipulation. It is a verified tool for manipulation. Now, media in India, let us look at it. It's very interesting. So the first book was printed in Goa in 1556. And in 1578, the first Indian language book was printed in Tamil. In 1779, the first newspaper was published. And when you look at all this, what was the information that was eminent? What was the things that were conveyed in all these publications and this media? They were either to talk about the religious beliefs, or it was to talk about the present condition that was happening around that time with the British, with the colonialism. And it talked about, they had topics about revolution and things like that. So in 1896, we saw the advent of film, almost the same time as the rest of the world. So in 1896, it was first shown in Mumbai. And then in 1913, Raja Harishchandra, a silent movie, a silent film was first shown. And you know what is the strangest part? All the actors in that particular film were male. Even the female parts were done or performed by the male actors. Why? It was a new thing, something very new, and people were wondering how to respond or how to be part of it. And that kind of set the tone, and media became like a male world. No women agreed to work in the film. India's first heroine was a man. Now, but the same year, in 1913, again, Mr. Dadasaheb, he had his first female actress introduced. Her name was this lady, Durgabai Kamath, in Mohini Masur. That was the first time we see people joined in, become an actress. Then we see that a first female director. Now there were many male actors and many male directors, so I'm not mentioning them. I'm just highlighting the female ones because there are very few, pretty handful of them. So in 1926, we see Fatima Begum. She was the first female director. Then in 1930, we see Homai. She died like a few years ago and very famous first photojournalist. And then we see in 1935, the first female stunt woman. And then we see 1935, again, we see the first female music director, Jadan Bai. And then we see in 1959, Pratima Puri was the first newsreader. That was when actually the DD decided to launch news. And in 1985, we see the first DOP was Vijay Lakshmi. So in 1940s, the art movement took over, bringing in a lot of the communist ideologies. The films too came up with many topics that brought in many movements and revolutions. The new wave in India, or what we call it, the neo-realism, or reality kind of topics began to be depicted in the 1940s. And again, in 1959, the first TV, or the terrestrial TV, was experimented in Delhi. And by 1975, I think about 7 cities in India, they used to have started receiving television services. There were like 2 programs in a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. And most of the content those days were about agriculture, health, or family planning, and a little bit of entertainment was also there. We could see movie songs. So in 1976, television and radio were separated, and that caused a big boom and a lot of production of media. And in 1982, the first football tournament was telecast. Color TV was introduced around that time, and popular TV series was Hum Log was introduced in 1984. So family drama became popular around that time. And in 1991, there was an explosion of channels. From that time, we see there are like so many channels around the world, even in India. And this was also the time we saw explosion of all expressions of male and female representation in media. Women were presented everywhere, to the extreme feminism, to extreme doormat, to action figures or villains or sex objects or objects of enticement. Men again to all extremes of violent bandits, to vigilantes, to extreme poor or subdued victim of a caste or social economic situation, to flirtatious lover, or boys to metrosexual boys, to village charismatic biggies. And then there was an explosion of sex and soft and hardcore pornography. So we have seen all kinds of way the characteristic of a person has been developed over the years by what we have as, some of them could say like, oh, every generation will say the next generation is a messed up generation. We were better, or we were worse, won't we say? But it's different because the perspectives have changed. We cannot call them messed up, or we cannot call them as the best. Because the perspectives, the circumstances, the situations, the technology, the exposure, everything kept changing. So we kept evolving, but somehow underneath our the extravaganza, there is a skeleton that was formed and set with our religious beliefs, with our ideologies, our cultural thoughts. Now, and eventually all that became acceptable, it became the truth sometimes we don't even verify the facts, but eventually it became the truth because that's how it was projected. And thus it changed the entire belief system, whether it was for worse or for good. And then that's when we decided girls dress up this way, boys dress up that way, or this is what is expected to do, this is what is not expected to. And if you also look, this present circumstances with the boom in internet media like Netflix and things like that, we see a lot of, we hear a lot of stuff happening in the news, whether it is negative or positive stuff. We see like success stories, we see worse things also. There has been things like fear and hatred and rape and violence and paranoia, while there has also been like prosperity and new achievements and things like that. So where are we getting our ideas of how we should act, who to identify with to prove what we, our gender or identifies with? It all goes into that circle of dependency, as I shared in the beginning. You know that there are 83% of film and TV narrators are male, at least 17% of characters are female, 7% of directors, 13% of writers, and 20% of media producers are female. Men have nearly 5-to-1 key roles. When I became a director for a TV series in 1998, 1997, I was living in Cambodia. That's when I got introduced to media. And I first started off as a production assistant. But somehow for me, I never let anything define me as saying this is a male role, this is a female role. I just knew my abilities, I knew my capability, I knew I could write, I knew I could direct because I used to direct theater stuff. And so I was 20 years old in 1998 when I became a director. I worked in Cambodia, then came back to India and pioneered several television shows and drama series, and started my own production studio in 2002. Even then, I was told, this is a male's world. How are you doing it? You cannot do it. Or you need to have money or political connections or, gundas with you to even set up a media house. But I didn't let that stop me. Neither did my family. And they said, no, this is what you need to do. And this is where you feel your strength is. Just go ahead and do it. I remember, journalist, he came to my studio, my office, and he asked me, how are you surviving in a male's world? How are you being successful? And my immediate response to him was, why are you interviewing me? This was in 2002. I said, why are you interviewing me? Maybe I did something different. Maybe I was influential. Maybe I made a difference. That's why you noticed me and you came and asked me these questions. And he was like, yeah, absolutely true. So that was some of the things that I had to face. And I also remember when I had my crew, it was okay. I mean, they understood my role and as a director, and they were accepting it. But when I started hiring people, crew from Tollywood or from Bollywood, this was again we were doing a short film in 2002. And it was about a child in a slum who had nothing to eat. And so anyway, so this cameraman, cinematographer, he refused to work with me. And he said, do you know what you're doing? I said, yes, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this from 1997. And he wouldn't listen to me. And I had to hire a male director, talk to him, explain to him, and then he explained to the cinematographer. But he saw me. He saw my consistency. He saw in how I presented and how I treated others, and how I was not like really dominant and saying, no, you got to listen to me because I'm this. So just seeing the way I presented it, because it brought in a lot of change. And very soon, the people have, the whole crew, they understood, Pearl ka program hai, unka production hai, she expects this particular standards. And now it's so many years now, 23 years now. And people know me. They work with me without any problem or any, hesitation. So what I'm trying to say here is, the people are willing to change, but there has to be, we have to prove, we have to show our skills. And that can happen when we equip and empower ourselves. Let me quickly look at this. This is statistics that was made by the New York Film Academy about films. And here we see that only 30.8% of women represented as a speaking character. 28.8% of women wore sexually revealing clothes. 26.2% of women actors get partially naked. 10.7% of movies featured a balanced cast where half of the characters are female. Average ratio of male actors to female actors is 2.25:1. Percentage of teenage females. I mean, if you just look at all this, we see that there are more men than women in the whole media industry. There's 5:1 ratio of men working on films to women. And ladies actually direct more documentaries than narrative films. Even there is a differentiation. They are okay. Men were, again, in the media industry, it was okay for women to be a newsreader. It was okay for her to do documentaries, but no mainstream media or films. Again, there was very less opportunities. Now, if you look at these statistics, you see, only 9% of women were directors, whereas 91% of men were directors. 15% were writers, whereas 85% of writers were men. 17% were executive producers, whereas 83% of executive producers were men. 25% were producers, whereas 75% of men were producers. Editors, 20% women, 80% men. Cinematographers, 2% women, 98% men. So it just goes on and on and on. If you see how with the pay structure, with the opportunities to be on screen, with the representation how much of their skills and talents that they can portray, there has been a vast difference. And UNESCO, it says that only 4% of news stories are deemed to challenge gender stereotypes. Women are the focus of only 10% of news stories, and they represent only 20% of experts or even considered as experts to speak on particular topic. So for over 60, they say that the media content will mainly tilt to male perception of things. It is said that for nearly 60 years, gender inequality on screen has remained largely unchanged or unchecked. The need of the hour is gender equality. This was by UNESCO. So now, what is the gender? How do we bring in this gender equality? We bring in by developing the knowledge, work, preventing violence, providing health, giving them time to, to balance between all the stuff we do at home and work, and then equal pay, and also decision-making capacity and power to execute the decisions. I remember I was in one of the borders of Gujarat and Rajasthan, and we went to this remote village and we were filming there. And one guy came to me and he said, "Ye aurat ko kyun laaye?" This was like a couple of years ago. And I said, "What do you mean aurat ko kyun laaye?" I said, "This is my work. This is what I'm doing." And, he didn't like it. And some of my male colleagues had to explain how things are different in the city and how our roles are different and the things that I do. After a lot of convincing, then he understood and then he began to accept us. So again, we need the help of everybody to help bring a change in creating a proper work atmosphere, creating a proper environment to help each other flourish. I have trained men, I have trained women, but it took a long time for me to get women to come into director roles, to get women to come into mainstream media. I think it was only in 2015 I was able to get a whole crew of women to work with me. So we need to create that kind of an environment. And, UNESCO, he says, promoting gender equality in and through media is essential to achieve sustainable development goals and is also crucial to the attainment and enjoyment of equal rights of women, men, girls, and boys. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. Wow. Look at this. Only 1.6% of contributions come for children and women. We need to change this, and we can change this. We were making huge progress, but again, the pandemic has created a serious setback. Now, more than half of the reporters or the journalists, they say that because of COVID, because of this pandemic, the gender inequalities have increased drastically. It has affected their private life. It has affected their work responsibilities. It has affected the salaries. So limited gains in gender equality and women's rights made over the decades are in danger of being rolled back due to COVID-19 pandemic. This is what the UN Secretary General said in April 2020, this year, and is urging governments to put women and girls at the center of all the recovery efforts. So everything that we have been doing in the past in helping women and bridge this gender equality, we should act fast. And I'm glad you're discussing these topics because it's a much needed topic, because we can make a difference. Now, how do we make that difference? Redeeming media. In conclusion, this is what I would like to tell you. Change begins within us. Can the media industry reinvent itself to present meaningful stuff? Will the media show more women and men being educated and becoming professionals and well-respected people in the society, making a difference in a good way and reaching new strides? Will we see more media content that binds a society with good moral values or respect for all genders and not objectify a person or show them as taken for granted? Can we keep our media clean where families can sit together and watch it? Can the films become catalysts for change by addressing social issues and bringing paradigm shift in how we respond to societal needs? Will people from all economic strata and classifications be depicted in a way that will bring them respect and create opportunities for them to grow? What would we do as recipients and contributors to the media production? What should we do as recipients and contributors to the media production? How should we influence our law? How should we bring awareness? How should we be the voice of this generation? Digital media has given us the tools to be vocal. We can use that to bring a positive influence and change our culture of thinking. And that is not just a superficial, a facade of love, care, and tolerance, but a real change that will transform our lives, our families, and our society. We can start by asking the right questions and using the right tools and sending in that message that will bring about this change. Why do we do what we do? Let us create more gender transformative content that will break stereotypes. Let us together push and demand the media world to change. Remember, we are the influencers. We tell the media what we want, and they will do and present to us. So let us push and demand the media world to change. The industry will give what you want to see. What do you want to see is the most important question. Change begins within us. Become a role model. Break stereotypes in your house, in your workplace. Project yourself breaking the stereotype culture, and people will see. You will become an influencer. And remember, media follows the trends of the customers. So acknowledge the hard work and handiwork of all genders. Make media your media, our media. And you and I can influence the way people think. So thank you so much. This is from me. I'm PearlGupta, and thank you everyone for listening and also for this opportunity to share with you. So here I am. Any questions you have, you're most welcome to ask me.
Ma'am, hardly any question, but you've been resonating so much that's already there in our minds. And thank you so much for coming to this platform and giving us an opportunity to listen to you. My family background has screenwriters and theater artists, and listening to you on a very formal platform is bringing back all those informal talks that we've had in our family. I completely agree with you. I'm very particularly very worried about. I was worried about what my kids are looking at in television, especially in the serials. The lady would sleep with her jhumkas on, with the sari intact, and she'll get up like that only. And she would never go to office. She'll just pack tiffins and plan and plot and wait for her husband to get reborn and refurbished, get little more taller, more handsome, and come back. So, but yes, I thought I'm just panicking, but this has gone so far so well with my kids and my own family structure. But I'm really concerned about how people. I come from Punjab, by the way, so Punjab is very has a long way to go as far as media, music, cinema is going. Of course, Punjabi cinema has taken strides now. They have started producing very meaningful, very content based, but yet women projection would take a little more while, but it is already getting there. So thank you so much. I'm really so happy and relieved to listen to all these ideas from you. Sometimes you just need another person to tell you what you know. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Hello, madam. Good afternoon. This is Prasanna Sharma from Chhattisgarh. Just an observation I want to share with you, and relatively question also, particularly in the field of media and entertainment. The promotion of women are more faster than men. As such, I just observe. But at the supermost top level, there is always a presence of a man represented by any of the media or entertainment level. Why this occurs?
You only answered your questions.
You can understand very well.
Again, like what you said throughout the discussion now, there are certain things are well received when a man presents, or there's certain things that are well received when a woman presents, especially anything that is going to influence or bring about a political change or things like that. We still prefer a man to speak into those things. But again, sir, it all depends on the current mood of the people, what they want to hear, and then who acts on the timely manner is well received at that point.
Well said, madam. Thank you.
I mean, anyone else can add to the questions that are asked. No problem.
Good afternoon, madam. I am M.D. Patwardhan from Hrdc Mancherial. So, in TV serials, nowadays women are portrayed as most powerful characters. So, shall we take it as in a positive way? But of course, they are villainous characters, that is a second thing. But is it in a progressive direction? What is your opinion, madam?
Sir, most of the TV series I try to avoid because it causes me a lot of headache. In the sense because there is an extreme representation of women. Not all women are villainous. Not all women are so outrightly able to or willing to take on adventures or solve issues and things like that. So I think there is a need again for a real representation of who women are or who we are as families, as society. It's just this extremes that have been shown and so influencing the extreme behavior we see right now among the young people, mostly. It stays in the subconscious. That's why it's very dangerous how we present this kind of things. I normally don't like to watch the soaps. The family dramas cause me a lot of trauma.
but they are less powerful characters. They enjoy the power of the entire house. They dictate terms, but as you say, you rightly said, okay.
They are. In fact, if you see, most of the politicians now, powerful women, they have been portrayed like that on media. In fact, because of what they acted, like if you see some of them, because of how the way they acted in that film, they thought that was your personality, and they became, political leaders and things like that. So yes, it kind of encourages and builds people, and also presents in a lot of skills from the actor perspective. It's a great opportunity, and as a writer or as a director, it is great opportunity for us because we are able to explore different varieties. But as an audience, do I want to see that? As an audience, do I want to um, you know let my children grow up in that kind of atmosphere? So I think as media people, we need to be responsible in how we present. But yes, on creative side, it's a great opportunity for the actors because they're able to showcase so many varied emotions, varied character traits. It's very excellent for from the media perspective. But how is it in the society? It's questionable.
Okay, madam. Thank you.